How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chavtes, Daf 29 of Masechta Sanhedrin, friends. Wow. Friends, first of all, yesterday was insane, right? Yesterday was absolutely nuts. And I'll tell you, today is not like that. But I'm telling you, Sanhedrin has been taking a lot more effort than, I don't know if I should say I expected, but these are big pages. I mean, these are big, lots of really big pages. The big pages take a long time. Well, that's just the way it goes. But anyways, yeah. It's just taking a long time. It's like 5 p.m. or something. I've been pretty much learning all day. I'm also a little bit behind, but it's taking a long time. I'll call upon him. Today we're going to learn Daf Chavtes of Masechet Sanhedrin. We're getting to a new Mishnah. We're not talking about the Sanhedrin Vomis anymore. That's behind us. I got a cup of tea over here. All right. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit dried out. It might be because I've been eating some cheese, I think, maybe. All right, we're going to start in Daf Chavtes Amud Aleph at the Mishnah. How do we interrogate? How do we check the witnesses? How do we check the witnesses to make sure that they're legit? We would take that right there. The Bezdin, the people, the checkers would take the witnesses into a room and scare them. The Gemara is going to talk about how exactly they would scare them. They would take all the people. They would send all the people outside of the room, and they would leave the biggest, the greatest, the most choshev of the more choshev of the witnesses. And they would say to him, how do you know he's chayiv? Okay, so I guess the Din Imam in this case, Shimon claims that Reuven owes him $1,000. How do you, Mr. Witness, know that Shimon's claim is correct? Excuse me, sorry, 1 second. Okay. How do you know that Shimon's claim is correct? Well, you're coming to support him. You're coming to testify on Shimon's behalf. How are you so confident that this is true, that Reuven really owes Shimon $1,000? Im Amar Hu Amarli Shani Chayev Lo. If he says, well, I heard Reuven say, or better yet, Reuven told me that he owes Shimon $1,000. Okay. Ish Ploni Amarli Shu Chayev Lo. Or it was hearsay. Somebody told me that Reuven owes Shimon $1,000. Both of those scenarios are irrelevant. Because even in the case when Reuven himself tells this witness, or even when the witness says that Reuven himself told him that he owes $1,000, Reuven could have just been, right, as we're going to see on this stuff, I think, right? Person doesn't want to look like a wealthy man. People are gonna drive him nuts. They're going to want money. So if he looks like Chayvis, right? Me, I owe Shimon $1,000. I'm not a rich guy. I owe money. I'm not lending. I'm borrowing. Leave me alone. No money here to be asked for. So therefore, that is so. If this witness simply says, "Well, Reuven told me that he owes Shimon money," that alone would not be enough. The Gemara is going to explain then how exactly. Do our witnesses? Yeah. Well, then how do witnesses work? But here we go. But im Omar. But if what the witness says is Hu Omar Li. What? Where am I? I'm sorry. Okay. So im Omar is putting Lo Omar Klum. Acha Yomar, until the witness says Bifanenu, in front of us, in front of both of us. Hoda Lo. Reuven admitted in front of Shimon, in front of us witnesses, Shu Chayev Lo Masayim Zuz, that Reuven admits to Shimon in front of us that he owes Shimon 200 zuz. That's another story. That is valid testimony. The Gemara is gonna get into this. Sorry for all the schnuffles. I don't know. I'm gotten a bit dried out, so I have some tea, but I think it's just making me schnufflier. So sorry. Okay, then they bring in the second witness and they check him. Ochit. If it turns out that they both say the same thing, okay, so we can trust them. These are trustworthy witnesses, and we move forward with the case, and we deliberate and try to figure out what the verdict is. If two of the three witnesses say innocent, I guess like Ruvain is innocent, let's say, and one of them says that Ruvain owes the money, he's guilty. So two say Zakai, one says Chayiv. Zakai, so then he's innocent. If two say guilty and one say innocent, Chayiv, and he's guilty. If one says innocent, guilty, and one of them says innocent, even if two of them say innocent or two of them say guilty, but one of them says I don't know, right? So if one says innocent, one says guilty, the third one says I don't know, or even if two of them said innocent, so there's obviously a majority for innocent, or two of them say guilty, so there's obviously, regardless of what the third person says, there's going to be, if two of them say guilty, Mamela is going to be guilty, regardless of what the third person says. Nonetheless, if he says I don't know, then it's as if he doesn't exist. It's as if we only have two witnesses, and two judges. Right, we're talking about judges right now. So Yosif Adayon, so then we add. So then we add judges. Gamru es hadavar, if they so Gamru es hadavar. Okay, so now when they're done with their deliberations and they have their verdict, Hayu machnisin osan, so they would bring them in. The Gemara is going to talk about bring who in. Who are they bringing in? The witnesses, the judges. Who are we talking about? I don't mean the judges. I'm like all over the place. The witnesses, the litigants. Who are we talking about? Okay, they would bring them in. Hagalosh b'dayon and Omer, and the greatest of the judges says, the most choshev of the judges says, Ish ploni ato zakai. Alternatively, Ish ploni ato chayiv. He says, okay, Reuven, you are innocent, or you are guilty. Lo yomar ani v'zakav chaver mechayvim. And how do we know that, let's say, two of them said guilty and one of them said innocent? I don't know that when the judges leave the bezdin, the one who says innocent shouldn't go to the litigant who is just convicted of being guilty. I don't know that the one guy who says innocent shouldn't go to him and say, look, I tried. I tried to have your back. Right? Lo yom, I shouldn't say ani mizake. Look, I'm the guy who said innocent, dude. It was the other two who said chayiv. What can I do? But they're the majority. Unfortunately, right? We got to go to the majority. But you should know, I had your back. I had your back. No, don't do that. On that it says, a person who walks around like a rochel, a slanderer, so he reveals secrets. It's bad to be that guy. Don't be that guy. More tea, more schnuffles. Let's talk a nice tea. It's like a green tea rooibos with honey. Very geschmack. All right. Says the Gemara, lehu. So when the Mishnah says that we intimidate them, how do we intimidate them? It says we bring in the witnesses and we intimidate them. How? So I'm review this as reviewed. We say to them thus. Nisim ruach v'geshem oyin. The pasuk says in Mishlei that you can have a scenario where there's wind. Oh wait, no, there's clouds, there's wind, v'geshem oyin, but there's no rain. There's all the symptoms of rain, but yet there's no rain. Ish misal b'mata sheker, a person who is a liar. And if you guys are lying, it's going to be bad news. Amar Rava says, that's not really such a big intimidating factor, because they could say, oh, okay, no rain, we'll figure out what to do when there's no rain. Shav shnei have kafno. Look, as we know, there could be a famine for 7 years. V'abava umno lo chalif. But on the gates of a skilled worker, there's no difference. Meaning, even when there is hunger and there's a lack of food, but look, if you are a skilled worker and your skill is in demand, no matter what's going on, you will always have something to eat. And therefore they figured, look, okay, so you're trying to scare us, there won't be rain? Okay, we can believe in ourselves, we trust in ourselves, we'll figure it out, you don't scare us. I mean, in every adverse condition, there are people that would be able to survive, and when we're going to survive, we'll be just fine. Elomar Rav, rather says Rav Aminulu, we say to them, Meifitz vecherev vechetz shanun, a club, a sword, and a sharp arrow, ish onebreu aid sheker, when you have a false witness. Clubs and arrows and swords, people. Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi, remember they could say, Shav Shnei Ava Mosana, that, yeah, but you can have 7 years of plague. Ve'inish blo Shnei lo shachiv. But look, a person doesn't die before his time. No matter what is going on, right? Different kinds of plagues as we've experienced in the last few years, what that can look like. But a person dies at the right time, they're not scared. If it's time to die, it's our time to die. And if it's not, then we'll live. Elam Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi, Amar li Nosen bar Marzutra, Aminalu, we say to them, Saide Shakre, Aograyu Zile. It's a psychological game. We mess with their minds. You know what we say to them? We say to them, people, if you are lying, if you are witnesses that are testifying falsely, you are scum. Even the people who sent you, even the people who you're helping out, who you're testifying on their behalf to help them out, view you as scum. You think they respect you? You're going to testify and testify falsely on behalf of one of the litigants where you think he respects you? He doesn't respect you. He looks at you and he says, wow, what's scum? I mean, I'm benefiting from it, but I have zero respect for these people. Show up and lie. They're willing to do this. I have no respect for them. So meaning you are, we intimidate them by getting to their brains and their hearts and their egos, and we say, if you're lying, there is nothing worse than you. You are so low that even the people who you're helping view you as garbage. The Pasuk says, "V'oshivu shnayim anoshim pnei v'liyal." Right? The suggestion is that you should send not just 2 people, right, negdo against v'yidu, and to testify falsely, lemar birkas elukim v'melech, berachta elukim v'melech, right? They're saying that you should send these 2 people to testify falsely, but they don't call them 2 people. Anoshim b'nei bliyal, send them 2 low lives. Even the people that are sending them to help them view them as low lives, as nothings. What you're doing is so low that even the people you're helping have absolutely no respect for you. And therefore it makes them, I guess if they have any ounce of self-respect, they would say, okay, we are not doing this. So it's interesting. We don't try to scare them as much as we try to mess with their heads. Im Omar Hu Omar Li Chule. So if he says, let's say if the witness says, well, he told me that he owes money. Nah, that's not enough. Until they say, B'fanenu, in front of us, Hoda lo, Reuven admitted to Shimon shu chayv lo masayim zuz, that Reuven owes Shimon 200 zuzes. Misayei leilu Rav Yehuda, this supports Rav Yehuda, the Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rab, tzorich sheyomar atem eidai. That in order for the testimony to be ironclad, to be valid, Reuven needs to say to the witnesses, you are my witnesses. So long as he doesn't make it official and say, hey, listen up, witnesses, you are my witnesses. I owe Shimon, and I'm here, Shimon is here, you're here, you are my witnesses. Shimon, I owe you $1,000. In that case, that is solid testimony, right? That is solid witnessing that those witnesses witnessed. But if he doesn't say, Atem Eidai, if he doesn't say, you are my witnesses, then he can always say, as we're going to see, he could say, oh, I was just joking. Why would he say I'm just joking? Well, because it's so ridiculous. Shimon's coming up to me and saying, Shimon's coming up to me and Shimon goes up to Reuven, says, Reuven, you owe me $1,000. Reuven's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, obviously that's ridiculous. Why would I owe you $1,000? So Shimon goes up to Reuven and he says, Reuven, you owe me $1,000. Reuven says, yeah, sure, whatever. That's not actually an admittance. Even if there are 2 people there, that's not, they're not. He can always just say, look, I was kidding because I thought you were just making that up, pulling that out of your sleeve. That's so ridiculous. Why would I owe you $1,000? I never borrowed $1,000 from you. So the fact that 2 witnesses are saying we saw that, they didn't really see anything, right? He would have to say, Atem Eidai, you are my witnesses. Then, once he made it official and said, you are my witnesses, well, I mean, you can't back out of that. In Manami was also stated, Amr B'chia Bar Abba, Amr Yochanan, so basically replace the parentheses with, V'tzarech she'omer atem edai, that it needs to say, you are my witnesses. Tanam Yochid V'ochid in a brisa, Monali b'yodcha, Amr Lohein, that Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me $100. And Reuven says, yes. L'machar Amr Lo, Tneuli. The next day, Shimon says to Reuven, okay, remember yesterday, right? Shimon says to Reuven, remember yesterday I said to you, you owe me $100? And you said yes? So now give me the $100. He says, no, I was just joking, as I was explaining before. Of course I don't owe you $100. I was just joking because it's so ridiculous. Potter, okay, so Reuven doesn't have to pay. He never said atem edai. We don't even know that there were witnesses bichlal. Although does he? Anyway, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I don't even see that there were witnesses there, right? So Kilu, he's potter. V'lo, not only that, afilu ichmin lo edim achorei goder. Even if Shimon had hidden witnesses behind a fence, so there are now two witnesses who overheard this. V'amar lo manali biyodcha, and Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me $100. Amlo hein, he says yes. Do you want to admit in front of so-and-so and so-and-so? Look, I'm nervous that maybe you'll take me to Bezdin. So no. The next day, Shimon says to Reuven, okay, give me the $100. I was just joking. Potter. He never said atem edai. He never made it official. So you can always just say, look, I wasn't actually taking that into action seriously. And we also don't make any arguments on behalf of a masis. A masis is somebody who convinces others to do avodah zarah. That's really bad. I think he gets skila. So we don't make arguments to help a masis. Masis man l'cha shmei. What does a masis have to do with anything? That just came out of left field. We are the Bryce is missing some word. Basically, massage the Bryce in the following way. Imlo toan ein te'anin lo. That look, we just said that Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me money, and there are witnesses there, and Reuven says, yes, I do. Then the next day, Shimon says, okay, so now pay me. Reuven says, I was just joking. Okay, so as long as he didn't say atem edai, so he's potter. But if he lies, right? And we're actually going to get this. We're actually going to get to this soon. But what does Rashi say? He says, if he says, no, where are we? If he says, come on, where's what I'm looking for? Where is what I'm looking for? He says, no, I'm not giving it to you. Well, now that's a different story, right? If he says I'm joking, okay, fine, it's a valid argument. But if we have witnesses who witnessed that Shimon said to Reuven, you owe me $100, Reuven says, yes, I do. And then the next day Shimon says to Reuven, pay me $100. And Reuven says, no. Wait, what was that again? I lost my place again. So I'm lo etin lach. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not paying you. Well, now we have witnesses that Kili is reneging. That's a different story. On the one hand, to say, yes, I said that, but I was joking, okay, valid. But to simply say, no, I'm not paying you, well, one second, we have witnesses who heard that, and you can't now lie because you have witnesses that can prove that you're lying. However, as we said, he could technically make the argument, I was just joking. However, if he, right, ain to'anin lo, but if, right, im lo to'an ain to'anin lo, if he himself doesn't make that argument, we are not going to make it on his behalf. Uvdini nefashos, however, if this would be a capital case, afagav de lo to'an to'aninon to'anin lo. However, by capital cases, that's not the case. By capital cases, if there is an argument we can make on behalf of the defendant to save his life, we will make that argument even though he did not make it himself. However, the ein to'an in the masis. But the exception is a masis. Maishna masis, how come a masis is different? How come we don't try to save a masis? Don't we try to save all defendants in capital cases? No, we don't. Amr Reb Chama, Reb Chanina mipirkei de Reb Chia bar Abba Shmi Ali. I heard from the teachings of Reb Chia bar Abba, shiny masis, that a masis is different to Achman Amr, because the pasuk says, the Torah says, Lo sachmo v'lo schasa olav. Don't have mercy on him. Don't try to cover up from him. Somebody who tries to convince others to do avodah zarah, we have absolutely no mercy for him, mercy on him, and we won't make arguments. If he makes his own arguments that are valid, Seder makes valid arguments. You're not going to kill him if he has valid arguments, but we're not going to make those arguments for a mesis. But by other capital cases, we would. How do we know that we don't make arguments on behalf of a mesis? Minochash HaKadmoni, from the Nachash in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. There were many arguments that the Nachash could have made, but he didn't make them. And how come Hashem didn't make the arguments on the Nachash's behalf? Because the Nachash himself didn't make those arguments, so Hashem didn't make the arguments on his behalf. What argument could the Nachash have made? Well, Hashem told you not to eat the fruit. I, a silly little snake, told you to eat the fruit. Who should you listen to, Hashem or me? Obviously, you should listen to Hashem. So therefore, right, the Nachash could have said, what did I do wrong? They made bad, right, Chava, Eve made, erred in judgment. The obvious answer to that question of listen to a little snake or listen to God, don't eat the fruit. It's not my fault. She made a bad and incorrect calculation. Chizkiah says, how do we know that anybody who, if you add, you actually subtract? More is less, or really less is more, and more is less, right? And when you add, you actually detract. That Eve says to the snake, that God says not just don't eat it, but also don't touch it. Now that's not true. God didn't say don't touch it. God said don't eat from it. She added don't touch it, and because she added that was just what the snake was waiting for her to trip up so that he can find a way to seduce her into eating from the tree of life. And therefore once she said don't touch it, which was not true, the Nachash forces her to touch it and sees, look, it's not so bad, you can also eat it. Rav Mishasha says from here that it says Amosayim is 2 amas, but if you drop the aleph, just Masayim, that's 200, right? So Amosayim is 2 amas, Masayim is 200. So adding the aleph makes it 1/100th of its amount. Rav Ashi Amar Ashtei Esrei Iros. Rav Ashi says Shtei Esrei is 12. Ashtei Esrei, when you add the ayin to the front, it actually becomes 11. Ashtei Esrei is 11. Shtei Esrei is 12. So by adding the ayin, you actually detract it by 1. Where am I? Where should I stop the video? Okay. Let's go a shtickle weiter. Amar Abai says, Abai, Loshanu elo de Amar Mishatani bicha. So Abai says that the only valid argument that Reuven could make, right, when Shimon says, Reuven, you owe me money, and Reuven says, and then the next day Shimon says, okay, so now you're going to pay me, and Reuven says, I was joking. Okay, I was joking is valid, right? I said it, I thought it was ridiculous, right? But I don't actually owe you the money. Aval, Omar lo hayudvar me'olam, but if he denies it, well then uchzakaf, and then he's a liar. So Kilu, if Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me $100, he says, yes, I do. And then the next day, he says, I don't know what you're talking about. You never told me I owe you $100, I never borrowed, I don't know what you're talking about. Then he's a liar. And if I imagine the point is, if there are witnesses who heard that, then even though he didn't say Atem Eidai, this is a different story. This isn't him admitting it, this is him being a liar, and they say, well, we heard him first say this, and now he's denying it, and they can testify that he's doing something wrong. Because he can't lie, he can't deny. If he admitted it, he admitted it. He could say I was joking, but don't say I never admitted it. You did admit it. So then he's a liar. However, Amalei Rav Papa Breder of Acha Bar Ada, Rav Papa Breder of Acha Bar Ada says to Abaye, but in front of, we say in the name of Rava, Kol Mile Dichdi Lo Dchiri Inshe. That no, things that are untrue, that are ridiculous, people don't remember. So Kilu, Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me $100. Reuven says yes. and then the next day Shimon says, pay me, and he says, and Reuven says, I never said I owe you $100, it's possible he's being honest. It's possible that because it was a ridiculous thing for Shimon to tell him that he owes him money, and he says yes, the whole thing was ridiculous. He forgot it even. He doesn't remember this interaction. It was such a silly interaction. It didn't make an impression. So it could be that Taka. It's not that he's a liar. He simply doesn't remember because it's irrelevant. Okay, so Shimon hid witnesses in his bed. Okay, Amar Le, and he brings Reuven into his bedroom. And he says, Reuven, you owe me $100, you owe me $100, Amar li hein. And Reuven says, that's correct. I owe you $100. Yes. Now there are witnesses who are hiding in the bed. Omar, and then Shimon says, Iri v'shichvi la'avu alach saideh. And Shimon says, those who are awake and those who are sleeping will be witnesses to this, that you owe me $100. It's an equivalent of like Atem Edai. Instead of Reuven saying Atem Edai, you are my witnesses, Shimon is basically saying, do you accept that if there are witnesses, they will be valid witnesses that you owe me $100? Amalei lo. Reuven says, no, I don't agree with that. Rav Kahana says, okay, well, Reuven said no, so they're not good witnesses. Shimon hid witnesses in a grave, and they were in a graveyard, and he hid witnesses in a grave. Omar lay, and Shimon says to Reuven, Manali biyodcha, you owe me $100. Omar lohein, Reuven says, yes, I do. Chayu meise lavi olach saide, can those who are alive and those who are dead be witnesses for you? Omar lo, and Reuven says, no, they can't. So those witnesses who are hiding in the grave are not valid witnesses. Omar Shimon or Omar lo, Reb Shimon says, look, he said no, those witnesses are irrelevant. Omar Ravina says, Ravina v'temer papa shmamina meha. What do we learn from here? That when Rav Yudah Amar Rav says that Reuven says Atem Edai, that he looks at the witnesses, he says to the witnesses, you are my witnesses. The same is true of Shimon. Lo shna, where am I? Atem Edai lo shna ki Amar love. It doesn't matter if it's Reuven who says it. V'lo shna ki Amar malva v'shasik love. And it makes no difference if Shimon's the one who says it and Reuven be'etzem acquiesces, right? He keeps quiet, right? Shimon says, do you accept, these witnesses to testify about this? And if he's quiet, right, in these cases, right, Taima to Omar lo velo, avalishasa kochinami, right? In our cases, Reuven had specifically say, no, I don't agree with that. But if he would have been quiet, then the witnesses would be valid. So either, Reuven could say Atem Edai, or Shimon can say, hey, are you okay with these witnesses? And if Reuven essentially agrees, so then it's the equivalent of Atem Edei. There was a person that they would call Kav Rashu. Okay, I guess he had a nickname that he had lots of documents that were out against him. He owed lots of money, borrowed a lot of money, lots of loans against him. Omar man masik bi ela ploni floni, and he says, who do I owe money? Who do I owe money to? The only people I owe money to, but who has any claims against me? The only people who have claims against me are Ploni and Ploni. So Ploni and Ploni heard that and like, oh, Gevaldik, also Tavinu Ledina. So they came and they took him to court. They said, look, you see, he said that he owes us money. Kamid Rav Nachman, before Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Nachman, but Rav Nachman says, Adam Osui, Sholas Be'ez Hatzmo. No, you have no claim against him. A person does this so that he doesn't look like a wealthy person, so people leave him alone, right? He says, look, I'm not the one giving the loans, I'm the one getting the loans, leave me alone. Anyways, so therefore the fact that he says that he owes money, that he simply says that he owes money, didn't say Atem Edai, didn't make it official, that's not enough because he might just be downplaying his wealth. There was a person who they would call a mouse who lies on his money, just like a mouse, a wealthy, just like a mouse would just lie on his money and just sit there and do nothing with it. They refer to this person as a wealthy guy who had all his money, but he would just kind of keep it around. Kikashochiv, when he died, Omar, he said, Planu Yuflanya Masku Bey Zuze, and when he died, he said, I owe money to so-and-so and so-and-so. Basu Deshchiv, Asu Tavinu Liyarshin. So after he died, these people then came to the heirs and said, hey, your father had said that he owes us money. So also the comment of Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, they came to Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Amalu, he says to them, When we say that a person wants to downplay his wealth, that's when he's alive. But this would not apply after death. And therefore, you pay them, I guess, what they're owed. Paru palga, okay, so the heirs, had paid half of the outstanding debt. Tavinu ledina liidach palga, and now they wanted to collect the second half. Now this time they came before B'chia. He says to them, no, just like a person who downplays his wealth during his life, a person does the same thing, so that, right, to downplay the wealth that his heirs would be inheriting from him. And therefore we don't actually believe that he owes these people money. So these people, I believe, said, Nezov and Ahadr. Okay, well then we should give back what we've already collected, half of it. Amalahu, Rabbi Chia says, no, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi already paskin that you're entitled to the money, and you've collected half of it. So I'm not going to contradict what I'm not going to undo what Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi said. He already paskin that way. So keep it, but maybe just don't collect the other half. A little bit more tea. All right, where are we? Hodu b'fnei shnayim v'konu miyado. Okay, if Reuven, okay, so I guess Reuven says probably atem edai, and he does hoda. He admits to Shimon. Reuven admits to Shimon that he owes money. Okay, the shaila is, can you now write a document, a shtar hoda? If he writes a shtar hoda, then it becomes a milva b'shtar, and he could collect from the chasam mishubadim. So if you made a kinyan, v'kanu miyado, to make a kinyan, to make it official, right? He wants to make it official that he admitted it. So kosvin, so yeah, you could write a document, make it a milva b'shtar. V'imlav in kosvin, but if you don't make a kinyan on it, yeah, sure, he admits in front of witnesses, he says a tamedai, he admits that he owes the money, but he didn't make a kinyan. So then you cannot write a document and make it a milva b'shtar. He wants to keep it as a milva al peh. Bifnei shlosha. If he admitted this in front of 3, which is then a bezdin, well, bezdin has special powers. They can do hefker, bezdin, hefker. They could move money around, and therefore they have if it's a bezdin, they have the authority to be able to write a document about it if he admits in front of them. So v'lo kanum yado. So if, however, we're gonna kind of get more into this now. So if it's in front of 3 people, v'lo kanum yado, and there was no kinyan. So it's a bezdin, but there was no kinyan. So now it's a machlokas. Rav or kosvin. So Rav says, like I was explaining, kosvin, that you could write a document because it's a bezdin. They could write a document, and now it becomes a milva b'shtar. V'Rav Asi Omer, as Rav Asi says, ein kosvin. No, you cannot write it. You cannot just go ahead and write a shtar, even though it's in front of this bezdin. However, there was a scenario like this. V'chosh Rav. And Rav, who had just said that the bezdin could write a document, he was I don't know what chashla. He was choshe. I don't know what he basically said. Don't write the document, like Ravasi says. Ravada bar Hava says Ravada bar Hava who ha'odisa. I'm sorry. Where am I? Ravada bar Hava ha'odisa. When it comes to a shtar hoda'ah. Zimnin kasvinon v'zimnin lo kasvinon. So meaning a shtar odah in front of a bezdin, but there was no kinyan. So sometimes we write a document. Sometimes we can document it, and it becomes milva b'shtar. And sometimes we don't document it. Knife v'yazve lo kasvinon. If the 3 people were already there, and then Reuven admitted in front of Shimon, so Kilu, he didn't gather them together to be a bezdin. They just happened to be 3 people there. But possibly, if there were 2 people there, it would have been just as happy. So he's not accepting them as a bezdin per se. Well, then lo kasvino, we can't, we don't treat them as, we don't say, okay, fine, write a document, because his intent wasn't to admit in front of bezdin. His intent was to admit in front of witnesses, arguably, and therefore there was no kinyan. So therefore, it remains a milva b'peh. Kanfinu iu, but if he himself Reuven himself gathered the three people there, well then Yidavka wants it to be a bezdin kasvinon, and they can write Yidakin, make it a milva b'shtai. Rava Amar says, Rava afilu kanfinu, even if Reuven himself gathered the three of them, kanfinu iu lo kasvinon, we would not write a document adu amarlu until he says to them, hevu ale daine, be judges for me. Ma Bravashi Amar says, Ma Bravashi Afilu Amar Hevu Aledani, even if he says be judges for me, lo kasvinon, we would not write this document ad kave duchta, until they make an official bezdin, an official place, v'shalche, and they send representatives umizamne lebedina, and they say Reuven, come to bezdin. Like if they make it, in order for them to be able to write a document, it has to be like an official document, official bezdin with the location, with messengers and all that kind of stuff. But just three people, even if you gather them together, they would be unable to write these kinds of documents. My brain is starting to slow down. But we're at the very end of the daf. The thing is, I have another daf that I want to record today. Wow, I'm telling you, it's kind of a shtickle like Bava Mitzia. It's been a shtickle mission to kind of keep up. And it's been hard to keep up with everything. I don't know. It's a little bit more demanding than I anticipated. I think I have to expect for it to be more demanding and adjust whatever I need to adjust to be able to meet the expectations of Sanhedrin. Okay, if Reuven admitted about metaltalin and they made a kinyan, kosvin, so they could write a document. But if he doesn't they don't make a kinyan, so then ein kosvin, so then they don't write a document and they don't make it a milveh bishtar. Where am I? But if we're talking, if he admits if he admits that this property belongs to Shimon, they didn't make a kinyan. What is the halacha? Mimar Amar ain't kosin. So Mimar says we don't write a document. Mazuch Amar kosin. The Mazuch says that we could write a document. We could. My brain is starting to turn off. We can write a document. There's no difference between milva. There's a difference in a document. Milva b'shtar, milva b'alpeh. But kilo, if he admits that he owes this, that he owes it, right? He admits in front of witnesses that this property belongs to Shimon. So we could already write that down. Also, kosvin talachas that we write it down. Ravina ikla the damharya. Ravina visit damharya. Armale ravdimi bar. Rafuna midam harya ravina. Metaltalin ve'isnu be'inayu mai. What if you have metaltalin? Now, one of the halachas by metaltalin, for example, if you lend out money, you could spend the money and get it back later. But what if you kept the money and it's be'en, it's here, kind of like property is here in front of us. So then what's the halacha? Amarlei, so Ravina answers, Kim karkoi damu, it's like they're like karka, and you could write a document, Ravashi Omar, came the mechasoi govaina lo, since they would still need to be collected, they're not quite considered. We don't treat it, meaning, generally speaking, we say by, hava, milva lo tzoa nitna, so long as it hasn't been collected, we're not going to say, but it's here. No, we'll treat it like a milveh, and therefore we would not write a document on it. Wow. Okay, that was the Chav Tes of Masechta Sanhedrin. I feel like there was a lot there. We had that Mishnah about how to check the witnesses and different kind of court processes and how we intimidate them, and the two versus the one, and all that kind of stuff. We learned about Atem Eidai, that when Reuven admits in front of Shimon, he has to say to the witnesses, you are my witnesses. So long as he doesn't say that, he can kind of say, I was just joking. We learned about, people don't want to look like they're wealthy, right? They want to downplay their wealth. And that applies not just to people, but to their children as well. Peace out.